240 pounds. That is the number my wife Karen wrote at the bottom of our harvest log last October, and it came from just 7 crops growing in a regular suburban backyard in the Midwest. Not an acre, not a farm, raised beds, and a few in-ground rows on the same lot we have owned for more than 20 years. Now, I did not pick those 7 crops because they are fashionable. I picked them because I'm 58 years old, my knees have opinions, and I wanted the crops that give the most food for the least bending, kneeling, and replanting. And here's what surprised me when I looked into it. The crops that are easiest on an older gardener turn out to be the very same foods that show up over and over on the dinner tables of the longest-lived people on Earth. Stay with me to the end, because the 7th crop on this list will keep feeding you for 25 years from a single planting. And the reason it can do that comes down to one specific thing. It builds underground in its first 2 seasons that no other vegetable in your garden can build. I'm Steve Calloway. I've been growing food in the same Midwest backyard for more than 20 years, running side-by-side test beds and writing down what actually happened. My first garden was a jungle of green that gave me about a dozen sad tomatoes all summer. Karen keeps the harvest log with me now, and these days our problem is giving food away fast enough. Now, the word longevity gets thrown around a lot, so let me be straight with you before we plant anything. I am a gardener, not a doctor, and I'm not going to stand in my backyard and tell you a vegetable is medicine. Food is food, but I can tell you 2 things I know for sure. First, in the regions of the world where folks routinely garden into their 90s, places like Okinawa in Japan and Sardinia in Italy, the daily plate is mostly what comes out of a home garden: beans, greens, garlic, sweet potatoes. 4 of those are on this list. And second, the garden itself is the part nobody talks about. A vegetable garden hands you a reason to get up, get outside, and move your body a little bit every single day, spring through fall. In my book, that counts for as much as anything on the plate. But here is where this list is different from the ones you have seen before. I chose these 7 with my knees and my back in mind. Every crop here scores high on what I call food per unit of work. It either plants once and produces for years, or it grows up at standing height. Or one planting gives you months of picking. I have grown every one of them in my own test beds, and Karen has the pounds written down for all 7. And keep that 7th crop in the back of your mind as we go, because the trick it pulls off underground in its first 2 seasons is the whole reason it can pay you back for a quarter of a century. We will get there. Now, everything I'm about to show you, all 7 of these crops, comes out of the same tested system I run in my own backyard, and I finally wrote the whole thing down in a book called Steve's 30-Day Maximum Yield Protocol. It is the exact 30-day system I follow to roughly double what every plant in my garden produces, written out day by day from soil preparation all the way through harvest. It works in raised beds, in-ground plots and containers, with no extra square footage and no expensive equipment. Inside, you also get what I call the Big 7 Yield Killers, which is the diagnostic framework I use to find whatever is quietly holding a garden back, plus my methods for feeding plants for fruit instead of foliage, the strategic pruning that feels wrong but multiplies production, and the companion planning and succession planning systems with the science behind why each one works. It is 115 pages, and right now it is $17, marked down from $47. One good harvest from one bed pays that back many times over. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you use to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up, give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you're watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time. There is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. All right, let's get into the garden. Number 1, pole beans. If you only change one thing about your garden this year, grow your beans up instead of out. In my test beds, I ran bush beans and pole beans side by side for 2 seasons. Same soil, same water, same sun. The bush beans made me kneel in the dirt to pick every single pod. The pole beans grew up a simple trellis to eye level, and I picked them standing straight up with a coffee in my other hand. Same vegetable, completely different experience for a 58-year-old body. And the pole beans out produce the bush beans by roughly double per square foot of ground, because a trellis turns 1 square foot of soil into 6 vertical feet of growing space. The variety in a lot of my beds is the scarlet runner bean, the one with the bright red flowers climbing all over the trellis. The hummingbirds fight over those flowers all summer, and the pods keep coming from July until frost. A single 10-foot row of pole beans gives me right around 30 pounds of beans in a season. 30 pounds from 10 feet. Here is how you plant them. Wait until the soil hits 60 degrees, which in the Midwest is usually late May. Push each seed 1 inch deep at the base of the trellis. Space the seeds 4 inches apart. That is 4 inches, about the width of your palm. Then the one rule that decides everything. Pick every 2 days once the pods start. A bean plant's whole purpose in life is to make mature seed, and the moment you let pods go fat and lumpy, the plant decides its job is done and shuts down production. Keep picking, and it keeps producing, because you keep interrupting the finish line. That is not a trick. That is just how the plant is wired, and you can use it. And remember what I said about the longest-lived folks on Earth. In every one of those regions, beans are on the table just about every day. I will let the scientists explain why. I will just tell you they are the cheapest protein you will ever grow, and they store dry in a jar for years. That handles the standing height crop. But the next one solves a different problem, the replanting problem. Number 2, kale and collard greens. A tomato gives you fruit for maybe 8 weeks. A head of lettuce gives you 1 harvest, and it is gone. Kale and collards are different animals. You plant them once in April, and you're still picking leaves off the same plants in December, sometimes with snow sitting on them. 1 planting, 8 months of food. In my beds, a single kale plant gives up somewhere around 60 full-size leaves over a season, and a row of 6 plants keeps our kitchen in greens without a single replant. The method is called cut and come again, and it has 1 rule. Pick the outer leaves, always, and leave the center growing tip alone. The center of that plant is the engine. Every leaf it makes comes out of that 1 growing point, so you harvest around it like taking spokes off a wheel while leaving the hub. Take the hub, and the plant is finished. Now here is the part that surprises people. These greens taste better after frost, and it is not your imagination. When temperatures drop below freezing, the plant converts stored starch into sugar. Because sugar in the leaf tissue works like antifreeze in your truck. The plant is protecting itself from ice, and the side effect is that a November collard leaf tastes noticeably sweeter than an August one. Karen will not cook collards out of our garden until we have had at least 2 hard frosts, and she is right. Plant transplants in April, 18 inches apart. That is 18 inches. Wider than feels natural because a happy collard plant gets big as a bushel basket. Feed them once a month, water deep once a week, and pick from the outside in. That is the whole program. Number 3, garlic. This is the laziest crop I grow, and I mean that as the highest compliment. Garlic asks for about 20 minutes of your time in October, and then it asks for nothing at all until July. No staking, no pruning, no picking schedule, and almost nothing in my garden ever bothers it. Not the rabbits, not the deer, not the bugs. For a gardener who wants to travel, or who has a bad back, or who just wants one bed that takes care of itself, garlic is the answer. Here is the October routine, 1 step at a time. Buy seed garlic, not the sprayed bulbs from the grocery store. Break each bulb into individual cloves the day you plant. Push each clove into the soil, pointy end up. Plant it 2 inches deep. That is 2 inches, about the length of your thumb. Space the cloves 6 inches apart. Cover the bed with 3 inches of straw or shredded leaves and walk away. The cloves root in the fall, sleep through winter under that blanket, and jump out of the ground first thing in spring. When the bottom leaves turn brown in July, you lift the bulbs, and every clove you planted has become a whole head. 50 cloves, planted in 20 minutes, becomes 50 heads of garlic. Cured on a rack in the garage for 3 weeks, those heads store on the kitchen counter for a good 8 months. No canning, no freezer. And garlic is another one, straight off the tables of the world's longest lived regions in Italy, in Greece, in Japan. I grow it because 20 minutes of work in October feeds our kitchen until spring. The garden doesn't lie, it rewards the system, not the guesswork. Number 4, sweet potatoes. If you want to know what the longest lived population on record actually ate, it was this. For generations, the traditional diet on Okinawa in Japan was built on the sweet potato more than on rice. I am not going to tell you what that means for your health because that is not my lane. I will tell you what it means for your garden, which is that this crop thrives on neglect in exactly the places your tomatoes sulk. Sweet potatoes want heat, sun, and soil that is not too rich. My sandiest, poorest bed, the one that disappoints everything else, grows my best sweet potatoes. You plant slips, which are just rooted sprouts, in June once the soil is warm. Space them 12 inches apart, water them for the first 2 weeks, and then the vines take over the bed like a living mulch and smother most of the weeds for you. Come late September, one plant hands you 3 to 5 pounds of potatoes out of the ground. But the step everybody skips is curing. And it is the difference between a bland potato that rots by Thanksgiving and a sweet one that keeps until April. Fresh dug. Sweet potatoes need 2 weeks somewhere warm and humid, as close to 85 degrees as you can manage. I use a corner of the garage with a space heater and a pan of water. In those 2 weeks, the skin heals over every nick from digging and enzymes inside convert starch to sugar. That is 85 degrees for 2 weeks, and it is not optional. After curing, they sit in a cool closet in a cardboard box straight through winter. No canner, no freezer, no work. And hold that thought from the beginning about crop number 7 building something underground, because we are 2 crops away, and once you hear how it works, you will understand why I tell people it is the single best planting decision an older gardener can make. Number 5, blueberries. Everything so far has been a vegetable. This one is a shrub, and that is exactly why it belongs here. A blueberry bush is not a one-season deal. Plant one well, and it will hand you fruit for 30 years, sometimes longer. There are bushes in the northeast still producing after 50. You plant it once, at whatever age you are now, and it outlasts every knee complaint you will ever have. A mature bush in my yard gives us 8 to 10 pounds of berries a season, picked standing up, no bending at all. Blueberries have exactly one non-negotiable demand, and it is the reason so many people fail with them. They need acidic soil, down around a pH of 5. Most Midwest yards sit closer to 7, and in soil like that, a blueberry bush just sits there, yellow and miserable no matter how much you feed it. It is not the food. The roots cannot take up nutrients unless the soil chemistry is acidic. So here is my fix, and it costs less than dinner out. Do not fight your whole yard. Dig one hole 3 feet wide and refill it half with peat moss and half with your native soil. Or skip the digging entirely and grow the bush in a 20-gallon container full of acidic potting mix, which is what I would do on a patio, and it works just as well. 2 more rules. Plant 2 different varieties because cross-pollination between them can noticeably increase the size of your crop. And mulch them with pine needles or wood chips 4 inches deep, since blueberry roots run shallow and hate drying out. Do those things in one weekend, and you have set up a supply of fruit that will still be producing when today's newest gadget is in a landfill. Number 6, artichokes. I can hear it already. Steve, artichokes grow in California, not in the Midwest, and for years I believed that too, because the artichoke is naturally a perennial that fruits in its second year, and our winters kill it dead in its first. Then I ran across a method the University Trial Gardens worked out, put it through my own beds, and picked artichokes in my backyard the same summer I planted them. 6 to 8 buds per plant, off a plant that had never seen a second year. The whole method is one honest trick, and it is about fooling the plant. An artichoke waits for winter before it will flower. It counts the cold, so we give it a fake winter. Start seeds indoors in February under a light, and grow them for 8 weeks into sturdy little plants. Then in April, set those young plants outside for about 10 days while temperatures are sitting below 50 degrees but safely above freezing. That is 10 days of chill. And count them. The plant registers that stretch of cold as a whole winter, flips its internal switch, and now believes it is in its second year of life. Plant it out in May into your richest bed, 4 feet apart, feed it monthly, and by August, you are cutting artichoke buds in the Midwest, like you live on the coast. I tested this myself across 2 seasons before I would say it out loud on this channel. First year, 4 plants, 26 buds. And beyond the harvest, an artichoke plant is flat out beautiful, silver leaves 4 feet across, and any bud you miss opens into a huge purple thistle flower the bees mob all day. Which brings us to the crop I have been promising you since the beginning. Number 7, asparagus. Every other crop on this list gives you a season, or in the blueberry's case, decades from a shrub. Asparagus is the only vegetable I know that you plant one time and harvest every spring for 25 years. One afternoon of planting in your 50s is still feeding you in your 80s. A mature bed of 25 plants gives me right around 12 pounds of spears every April and May, and the work amounts to walking out with a knife each morning while the coffee brews. And here's the payoff I planted at the top of this video, the underground reason asparagus can do what no other vegetable can. In its first 2 seasons, an asparagus plant is not really growing food. It is building a crown, a dense knuckle of buds at the soil line, with a storage root system spreading out below it 5 and 6 feet deep and wide. Those thick roots are not drinking straws. They are a pantry. All summer long, the ferny green top gathers sunlight and pumps the energy down into those roots as stored starch. And every spear that shoots up the following April is pushed out entirely by that stored energy before the plant has a single leaf working. The spears you eat are last summer's sunshine, spent out of a savings account. And that is exactly why the one rule of asparagus exists. The rule that decides whether your bed lasts 3 years or 30. Do not harvest in year 1 and do not harvest in year 2. Every spear you cut in those first 2 springs is money pulled out of the account before the interest starts. Cut early and the crown stays small. The pantry stays thin and the bed peters out. Leave those first 2 years of spears alone. Let them fern out and feed the roots. And by year 3, the crown is so well stocked it can throw fat spears at you every morning for 2 straight months and then do it again for a quarter of a century. Plant crowns in April in a trench 8 inches deep, 18 inches apart, in the sunniest spot you own, and give the bed those 2 patient years. 2 years of patience, 25 years of harvest. Same space, same effort, completely different result. And that patience first thinking is exactly what the whole protocol is built on. Tested, cheap, and written out day by day so you can just follow along. If today's video gave you 7 crops, Steve's 30-day maximum yield protocol gives you the system underneath all of them. The same 30 days I walk through in my own beds to roughly double what every plant produces, whether you grow in raised beds, in the ground, or in containers on a patio. It is $17 right now, down from $47, and I priced it so that 1 bed of pole beans pays for it before July. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you use to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up, give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you're watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time. There is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. So there it is, 7 crops chosen for the most food and the least work, and one of them still feeding you 25 years from now. Tell me in the comments what you're growing this year and your best harvest number so far. I read every single one. Next time, I'm going to show you the one pruning cut on a tomato plant that feels dead wrong the moment you make it, and added a full 20 pounds of fruit to my August harvest in the test beds. Get out there and get your hands dirty, and I'll see you in the garden.